Hello and welcome to another jungle video, and in this one, the first of season 12, we are going to be looking at all the jungle routes you should be playing as we account for all the drastic changes to the meta through itemization, dragons, and of course the death of laner gap at 3 minutes 15 as it will determine which jungler actually gets to win the game. Because that crab is no more now sporting less HP and 80% less experience, it's going to shift the paradigm about what level spikes and what routes best accentuate the way to play the jungle meta. And if you want a bit more of a discussion about what might actually happen in the meta due to dragons and items, I have done a full breakdown of the season 12 jungle changes. You can watch that one. In this one though, we're focused on the jungle routes that are going to be strong. And as I do every season, I will give you the best junglers for season 12 coming up on Friday. So please leave a like and subscribe if you do enjoy the content and are excited for all the season 12 content. My Patreon should have some infographic tier lists coming up as well as some coaching VODs at the end of the month for season 12. And now without further hesitation, let's begin. Right, so obviously in the last video I looked at the 5 camp versus 6 camp implications from the crab. I didn't really discuss all the best routes and what we might actually think about doing in the early game, and that's obviously the most important thing when you choose your jungle route. With the new itemization in season 11, we had a drastic shift over which junglers could do what. All of a sudden we didn't have Hunters, Machete, and Talisman, it was just all one unit. Rengar players and Warwick players missed the Tiamat, and the nature of our routes ended up just being, well, full clear, get to 315 crab, try and double crab if you have lane prio, and yada yada. Then they nerfed the spawn timers to kind of shift this attitude, and basically the 5 camp just became the best default. Even if you enjoyed doing a buff Raptors Grump into a gank into a crab, this usually would give you level 4. And that therein, my friends, is the emphasis point of this video. It gave you level 4. This means if you're ganking mid lane and you're ganking top lane and there's no weird things going on, they would also be level 4, so at the very least you're equal. If your laner did good things or weird things happened and they're level 3, you have an advantage. It also gave you a huge advantage over the bottom lane. However, when you think about Kha'Zix, what would he like to do in the current year? What would he like to do in this meta? Same with the Xin Zhao and things like that. If you knew you could battle it out with the enemy jungler over the crab, but you couldn't quite match their full clear tempo, you would just 5 camp it, get the crab before they could get there, or at the very least, try and force some kind of pressure, and then you're level 4, they're level 4, and then both of you would hopefully objectively assess lane prio and totally not in for the crab whatsoever. And in the case of a simple full clear jungler being slower, they could always reset, take the other crab, or you could try and double scuttle them, but if you did actually end up, taking one crab after a 5 camp and then meeting the enemy jungler for a good old-fashioned 1v1 on the other crab, at least you'd be the same level. And then you had champions, and specifically the meta, where you would be sort of like a volley bear or Xin Zhao, and you do a 5 camp, you'd have time to gank, and then you'd fall back to a crab, knowing once more that you have the level advantage to fight over it, or at the very least the lane pressure. So what do I think is going to happen, and what do I think the best routes are going to be for this current season? I just discussed why and how you would think about jungle routes in terms of a very specific jungle matchup paradigm. However, please remember that our entire existence is predicated on the need for us to gank, and we have to do that within the flow of farming while matching up to the enemy jungler and preventing them from ganking and getting objectives as well. Here's what you need to know. A full clear meta is going to be the order of the day. It's going to be the absolute standard way to play the game. This is why. Simply put, there's going to be less experience in the jungle. This is very much understandable. We're losing it on the crab. That means the second rotation of all your camps is going to provide significant more value for your level 6 spike. Yes, it does give you level 4, and we've lost no direct experience to any of the other camps, but it also means those junglers that can full clear as fast as possible and keep seemingly wanting to buff talent and things like that to do so, it means if you cannot match their cadence and they get to a 315 crab with a full clear, you can't fight them. You have prio, doesn't matter. I'll give you guys some counters to talk about in the next section. But it also means for the majority of your elos, where you might not be able to actually get that 315 full clear done, you can afford to give up one of the crabs without any concern. It really doesn't matter. What's more important is getting the second tier rotation of all your camps, because it will give you a faster level 5, level 6 spike, especially if you can get a gank in. But also, when the first RNG crab happens with the full normal experience load, you want to have as big a lead as possible, and you can achieve that by already sequencing your second tier camps. It also means if another jungler is going to do a more suboptimal clear, say your 5 camp variant, and they do the bottom crab, they're not going to be level 4, so you can afford to path in the opposite direction and simply gank that lane like, nothing's changed. And if the enemy jungler decides to cross the river and fist you over the other crab, well, guess what? You just killed the laner, you're level 4, they're still level 3 unless they got something else going, and it's a classic case of, well, I have a higher level than you and I can beat you. If you cannot, if they are level 4 for whatever reason, you can simply reset to base and then do another sequence. There is no concern except for that second crab and a gank to get that level 6 spike. And that's what's wrong with the 5 camp variant, although I still think it's going to be very good. You just need to do a 5 camp as normal, you can take a crab very easily, you do need to look for a gank, push a wave, and then you will be able to match up on the other crab, or at the very least, who cares? Let them have it, back to base, focus on your ganking as you normally would. But it is suboptimal when you're talking about doing 5 camp crab level 4 spikes, because now you don't have that, So if your whole goal was to go fight the enemy jungler, you need to rethink things. This is why I think we're going to be heading towards either a full clear meta, as I said, or into something that's a little bit more ganky and invadey focused. You see, if you're not going to be level 4 or be able to match the enemy jungler's level 4 spike, you might as well try a classic 3 camp, whether that's a buff Raptors Grump gank into a fullback crab into your blue side or red side or what have you, or if it's a simple buff Grump invade the enemy jungler for full clearing. These are counters to that kind of meta, and they do exist. And because the level 3 spike is going to be such a strong one for your ganks and your invades, we might even see a level 3 dominant meta around that crab and then having a delayed level 4 spike. But those champions that can full clear really fast and get level 4 and fight for crabs, they will dominate the currency of experience. And the bigger problem lies with the level 4 clearing junglers, because guess what you can do now? You just do a 4 camp, you look for a gank, if there's nothing you fall back to the crab. If the enemy jungler is a little slower, has shown somewhere, you can run across mid lane, you take the second crab, and you will get level 4. If you try the exact same play in Season 12 as you're seeing on your screen now, you don't get level 4. And here's the thing, if you don't get a gank off, it will be of your benefit to kind of soak a little bit of lane experience somehow, because that second crab then will give you 4, and obviously now we can match up and fight, but you're not going to have the same sequencing power as an enemy jungler. That means the focus for you as a level 3 spiking jungler is going to be very heavily on ganking success. You cannot fall back to the crabs as sort of a resource backpedal. Junglers of this nature might even be a little bit feast or famine, because if you imagine a 3 camp, 4 camp jungler trying to get those ganks off and they're not working, now as I said, we fall back to crabs that get level 4. In Season 12, if you don't get any experience, you will not, and most likely you obviously lose the other crab. So basically, if you're able to even get a gank off and 1 crab, you might not get level 4 either. It's a very tight window. And what does that mean? That means laners, we're going to be ganking, we're going to be pushing, we're going to be soaking. That's exactly what that means. That doesn't mean to say that 5 camp clears are dead. That doesn't mean to say any of these other things aren't going to exist. They are. It's just going to result in what level can you get at certain markers to match up not only with the laners, but also the enemy jungler. To that end, last week I showed you that I did a clear with Zyra on the current Season 12 patch. And you know what? I'm against a talent. So what can a talent do? What can a Shaka do? What can a Graves do? What can a Nidalee do? Red buff, invade your blue. So basically you're thinking, well, if I start to full clear, I'm just going to get invaded and killed. That's how you defeat full clear junglers. So what you then decide to do is do a nice classic reverse clear down. And historically we do that, ignore the Krugs and go for the crab. The problem is now you're going to match up to the enemy jungler in terms of which side you're on. So if you don't have laner prior and you don't win it, you will now be fighting level 4 to level 3, which again is not optimal. So what you can do then is basically say, oh, let me go take the top crab. And given that I was testing all of this stuff for you, I did exactly that. And if I was a normal jungler, I'd do it faster, I gank mid lane, but even then I'd be level 3, he'd be level 4, it's the same issue. So what I'm going to suggest to those of you who play weaker jungle matchups, or maybe you're just in a losing matchup, maybe you don't want to be invaded, you can significantly reverse clear now. The big difference in Season 12 for us players who need these clears, who want to outpath the enemy jungler, is that you no longer need to go for that Feast or Famine crab. Let him full clear. Let him take that bottom crab. What can you do to counteract this? Very simple. If you're avoiding the invade like I did in this one, simply go to the Krugs. Take the Krugs. You know the enemy jungler sequencing down. He started there. He's gonna get the bottom crab. If he is still enamored with the top side crab because he lives in the past, then you get a free gank off the bottom side without fear of counter ganking. If your laners are really hard pushing and you simply know that he's gonna full clear crab, set up for a nice counter gank. This is a great way to anticipate and punish enemies who focus solely on the crab. There's no real concern in losing them. Yes, a 5 camp into a double crab will give you 4 and is absolutely huge if you can get it, just in terms of a little bit of denial, but it's not the end of the world anymore. This means that if you do that reverse full clear counter gank bottom side reset, if they do happen to maybe take that top crab and you don't get it, that's fine. You can simply afford to start your second sequence and look for some more gankings. And that therein is the beauty of this change. It changes the focus. It changes the pros and cons of different scenarios. It means ganking junglers can simply afford a little bit risk in their ganks, because if they get it and they lose a crab for it, the gank is going to be worth more than that crab. But if they don't get the gank and they don't get any crabs, now they're at a deficit in terms of experience. And if you don't have prio, and if the enemy jungler is an invader, now you're down a level, you don't get level 6 as fast as them. Now if this happens, I'm level 6, the LeBlanc's level 6, she dies. Whoopie-doo. Season 12 with this exact scenario, I would not be level 6 and LeBlanc would kill me. So in this situation, you can see inherently that small amount of experience nerf, even if it's only in the first 2, will have longer lasting effects throughout the early game. That means the safest route for you all is going to be that full clear, even if you can't contest the crab like I showed you. Fall back, start your second sequence, maybe get another one, throw in a gank. The first RNG crab will hold significant amount of waiting. If you decide to do a 5 camp variant, make sure you're going for double crab domination or at least invading the enemy jungler. If you are a 4 or 3 camp homie, I'm going to suggest the same thing. Try and 4 camp as fast as you can, 3 camp as fast as you can. 100% try and pick the best lane to gank, get some success, and please at least get 1 crab, push some waves, get that level 4 spike as soon as you can. But if those ganks are not open to you, remember you can invade the enemy jungler and deny them just like we used to do in Season 10. And the real value in a lot of these other clears is going to be if you can deny them any sort of first camp or at the very least a second tier Grom spawn and yoinking away one of the crabs. But ultimately, there will simply be less of an onus in fighting in the rivers. There'll be less of a focus on being the same level as the enemy jungler just to match up and get a crab because it's so crucial. You can afford to give it up. Therefore, if you don't have prior, relax, reset, swap sides, gank your lane or two, maybe counter jungle some camps as I just mentioned. Don't focus on that crab nearly as much, but do understand the weighting it has in terms of your experience spikes and getting your ultimate. Don't force it when you could be focusing on more important things like ganking and your good old-fashioned sequencing. So let me know if you're one of the extremes. Are you going to full clear and maybe just fast focus at level 6? Are you going to be a 3 camp, 4 camp enjoyer and simply try and invade and get a lot of ganking done before the crab spawns? And even then, we don't care anymore. Whatever the case may be, please understand your level spikes, your experience advantages, and what gets you level 3 and what gets you level 4. This will be big knowledge for how you actually navigate the early game and exert your will on the map. Obviously, I am not a genie, so full disclaimer, I don't know what exactly the meta is going to develop into in terms of champions as well as items, because a lot of those things all work together to create the meta. But I can assure you, if something develops that is really OP, I will bring it to you, I will bring it forth with lasers and whatever else you want. Thank you very much for watching. Please do like, share, and comment if you did enjoy and learn something. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel as well as the other channel if you deem them both worthy. The secondary gameplay channel will get a full jungle gameplay with some of these routes available in, of course, the video tonight. Best of luck in learning the new meta, enjoy the new dragons, enjoy the new items, enjoy the new crab with reduced experience, and as always, I will see you all in the next video, which will be on Friday.